happy to be here among all of you. So, I can only tell you that we can put some efforts from our side, but ultimately whatever happens, it happens for reasons we can't even believe that it can happen. I'll give you my own experience, and here I'll talk about my own experience as a student, as a young man, as a professional, what has happened and how it has emerged over a period of time. Maybe some of you can relate to it, some of you would find something to take from here, get some experience out of it. More importantly, I would also share what is going to make you successful in whatever career or you would like to pursue for yourself. And there are few basic ingredients that we all need to be aware of. So let me start the journey with myself. As to how this fellow who is standing in front of you is not capable of standing at all in front of you. So I have got a rural upbringing. I was born and brought up in a village which is about 80 kilometers away from Jaipur. A typical rural setting you can imagine in mid 70s, and the facilities that you can expect in a village, even those were missing. So I had studied in a school in a village where there was no school building, and the school was only restricted to up to class 5 in any case. So once you cross over the primary education, you have to go to nearby village which is about 3 to 4 kilometers away, not far off, but you have to walk every day and come back, obviously, and that's where I completed my matriculation. Now, as typically happens in village schools, these are schools for the namesake, but there are hardly any teachers. So the students become teachers for themselves. And more often than not, you have only 25 to 30% of the teachers of the percentage sanctioned actually available to teach. And rest of the teachers are hardly visible because they have not been appointed still, and then you have to learn yourself. So that kind of upbringing in terms of academics that we had. But what I have seen in this village students, that because they go through that challenge, they start taking ownership on their own. And that is what happened with most of us while studying in village school. So when you are faced with such kind of enormous challenges and difficulties, while we feel that we are not the privileged ones, I would personally say that we are the most privileged ones because we got the opportunity to get the struggle and get ourselves up and against whatever system that you can think of and create a path which is something which we all can be proud of in later part of the year. And that is what I can share it with you. So sometime we might be feeling that maybe I didn't have the privilege to do this, do that. I didn't have the best of the campus. I didn't have best of the education. But I think the very fact that you got the challenge to overcome, I think that's the best privilege one can have to learn and to create something of your own. Now then comes the real struggle in corporate life. I mean, when you grow up from matriculation and you start getting into the real, because here you gear up for the real corporate life or the career. Our dream and aspiration were at that point in time was so small that possibly getting a clerk job in a bank was good enough. See, our universe gets restricted with the amount of experience that you get. So when you are in a village and you feel that maybe getting into a government job, and that too in a bank job, is good enough. So that's how most of us were programmed, that you need to really compete at a level where you can at least get into some kind of a government job at that point in time, and I'm talking of those are early 80s. The government jobs in those days were very, very fashionable because that gave you the guarantee of being able to take care of your family. And that's how our thinking was restricted. So when you came out of the village, because the village could not offer anything beyond class 10th, you have to come to the nearby town, you have to get into education because you have to complete your higher secondary those days, and then obviously you have to come to the big cities for your graduation. And I remember when I was in second year of my college, and somebody told me that, oh, there is some exam of some bank, some BSRB or something was happening, and if you can really do something, maybe you can pass out, it's a good thing for you to have it. And let me tell you the experience. I appeared for the exam and I thought it must be a simple exam, but given the amount of competition that we had in those days, I flanked. The reality was in front of me. Hey, what are you thinking? You can't even pass bank clerical exam. You're not even capable of getting a job as a clerk in a bank. And see, this is again a reality check in real life, which happened. So, you have no choice but to gear up again. And obviously, I was a student of commerce, studying in a government college, University of Rajasthan, way back in period of 1984 to 87. And frankly, we were clueless as a student as to what do we do next. So you will complete your third year maybe in another 6 months to 12 months time, and what do you do after that? And I remember one evening we were again fortunate to have somebody visiting our college, and there was an announcement on the notice board and somebody said, hey, somebody is going to come and talk about chartered accountancy as a career. And to be honest, we have only heard of chartered accountancy, we never knew what chartered accountancy actually meant. So we said, okay, let's go and try it out. So we went, attended the lecture, and this gentleman was again very touching to me, particularly because he also came from a rural background, and he had also more or less similar upbringing like what I had, or similar challenges that I thought that I am passing through. And he said, I am a chartered accountant and I am capable of taking care of my family, and I am a respected individual in the society. I said, that's fine. So the first question which I asked as an audience, if I become a chartered accountant, is the job guaranteed? And he said, yes, you become a chartered accountant, I guarantee you the job. I said, oh, so now my goal is very set. I need to become a chartered accountant. So I think it's easier to become a chartered accountant than to say that I'll be otherwise employed somewhere. So our goal again restricted. Then I asked him, so how do you become a chartered accountant? He said about 3 to 4% of the students who enter for chartered accountancy every year, they pass. And so the challenge was, how do you become one of those 3 to 4% students? See how the challenges get defined. I'm not trying to tell you that this story is going to repeat with you in more or less similar manner, but I am saying that let's learn something out of experience. And so I asked him that I am a Hindi medium student and possibly I can write reasonably okay English, but do you feel a Hindi medium student can be among those 3 to 4%? He said, yes, I was also a Hindi medium student and I can become, since I have become a chartered accountant, I can assure you that if you are a really good student, you can still become a chartered accountant. Now, the challenge was very much defined in front of me, and I said, see, my objective of becoming a chartered accountant was very different. I had no love for accountancy, but I had love for getting a job. And because he was guaranteeing me a job, I wanted to become a chartered accountant. And because he mentioned that as a Hindi medium student also you can become a chartered accountant, I said, yes, that I can do. Now the challenge was, how do you come within those 3 to 4%? And this is where I'm telling you, the biggest challenge that we had was we had an upbringing which was not giving us exposure to the real world. And the biggest challenge was that you have to compete with the best and the brightest to be among those 3 to 4% student. But what happened at the end? And there is again some amount of divine blessing that I see. So I finally said, okay, I will now pursue my chartered accountancy. And here I'll give you the power of divine blessing, how it happens. So obviously, because we had nothing else to do but to try to be somewhere in the top in the academics, I had a reasonably good academics. I was almost like one of the top 2 students in the college. I passed out in my batch. But then the real struggle was they were asking, okay, to become a chartered accountant, you need to enroll somewhere as an article clerk in those days. I think that's still there. So now I was roaming around on the streets of Jaipur, trying to meet every possible chartered accountant to offer me an article. And everyone was asking me, so where do you come from? I mean, obviously there was more demand than the positions available. So a situation came that I struggled almost getting into any company. I couldn't get anywhere. So finally I had to go and plead with somebody I knew very distantly. And he said, I have got a very, very distant relative of mine, and possibly I'll send you there if he can take you. So this gentleman, I walked in, and he said, okay, if you have come with such a big struggle and challenge, okay, but I don't have too much of work, but you can still do articleship under me. And that was one of my best fulfillment of the 2-month struggle. Oh, so finally I got someone to pursue my chartered accountancy. And you know how the divine blessing happens? He said, okay, today is Friday or Saturday. I don't remember the exact day. You come on Monday and bring all your original certificates. I'll fill up the form. So on Monday morning, I walk into his office and I told him, this is my certificates. This is what it is. After looking at my certificates, he said, you are such a bright student and you are doing articleship under me. But this fellow had the divine blessing that particular moment. And he said that while I'll take you as my article clerk, but I feel you should not work under me. You should go and work for some of the bigger firms or the top firms which can really give you the experience that you would need. And this fellow, for that momentary divine blessing, he called up one of the biggest firms, the most sought after firm there, and he said, I've got a student who is one of the bright students, you should at least meet him. And the firm said that we have already closed the admissions. So there is no way that we can take it. But he said, still you just meet him. And the senior most partner in the firm, he said, okay, but I have to go for my income tax work. If he can come in next 20 minutes, it would be great. So the moment I got this message, I jumped and I said, let me go and meet this partner, because he was one of the most sought after guru in those days. And I think that's the fastest cycle I have ever done in my whole career, whole life. I don't remember how many people I would have literally thrashed on the road, how many signals I would have braked. I said, just I need to be there because I want to be in front of the partner. And if he says, yes, you get in front, you get into articleship, anyway, I'm delighted. In any case, I would have back up. This partner again had a similar upbringing like me. He has come through rural upbringings. He had gone through similar struggles. So when I reached up to his office, I was like almost taking, you can say, the longest breath possible. He said, calm down. Were you sleeping for so many months? You are such a good student, but you were sleeping. I have closed all my admissions. But the very fact, possibly, I really don't know what got into his thought at that moment. He gave me the position. And he was one of the, you can say, a divine fellow who intervened in my life, and he really got so much, he passed on so much of experience through that he really got the best out of me. And finally, I passed chartered accountancy with reasonably good colors among one of the merit students in chartered accountancy. Now, what actually changed this whole thing is, I can only tell you, because we had nothing else to fall back upon. We didn't have the privilege of most of the other students had. Okay? And the only thing that we had was obviously a blessing for someone like him. And more importantly, he put us through so much of rigor that we had no option but to finally come out. All these things, I can tell you that as a student, as a career professional, please keep in mind that if you are not having similar privileges as one of your other colleagues has, count the blessings. Count the blessings. Maybe you are going through the grind to be successful somewhere in life. And the earlier you go through some kind of grind like this, the better it would be for you in the long term, be it your corporate career or be it your entrepreneurial journey, whatever you want to do. And I can share it with my own experience that at every stage when I felt that I was not the privileged one, obviously at that point in time I was not able to relate to what I am saying today. I was feeling that why it happens only with me. But the solution which happened, or the blessings or intervention which happened, was something which was absolutely unthinkable to happen. And somewhere I felt that as long as you had your focus right, things fall in place and you will really make the difference.